Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm discussing a trip I took to Alton Towers when I was about 10 years old? Maybe 11? It's around that age. Because I was still in primary school, so. Which is. I don't know what that is an equivalent to Americans, but it's not. Like, it's basically the first proper school. Um. Doubt that Americans are going to watch this, but you know. If Americans do and they don't know what the British education system's like, then yeah, it's a fucking bit different. Anyway, so a story begins when I'm 11, and my mum, my stepdad, me, and my best friend at the time, who is still a very close friend of mine, you know, we were going to on a trip to Alton Towers. Now, I'm not sure if Alton Towers exists in the US. I'll probably check after this video. But if it doesn't, Alton Towers is basically a theme park with a kind of spooky vibe. Not really sure. I haven't been since I was a kid. But I was talking to my friend earlier, and this story came to mind, so I thought I would tell the YouTube about it, despite me having about 15 other stories I've already noted down with titles. I thought this one would be quite funny. Because it's funny. And it is actually funny, not like my last video where I claimed it was funny and it really fucking wasn't funny. But this is actually a funny story. We were pissing ourselves laughing about it when I was retelling it earlier. Anyway, so it begins when I'm 11 and we're going to Alton Towers and we get there. And the first ride we go on is the Rita Queen of Speed, which is like the fastest roller coaster in the UK at the time. It's like 0 to 60 in less than a second, you know, like that's the speed it gets to. It is fucking fast. And basically, right, that was the first ride we went on. And I don't like roller coasters. I never have liked roller coasters. I've always been uncomfortable with roller coasters. But back then, I was always willing to at least give something a chance before I decided whether or not I was never going to do it again. Mostly because I would always get shouted at if I didn't give it a chance, even when I already knew I wasn't going to like what I was doing. But you know, that's life when you live with a person who abuses you. You don't get a choice in doing anything, and you constantly get forced to eat things you don't like, or do things you don't like. Anyway, so basically, we get on the roller coaster, and I'm 11ish. Again, I think I was over 11, 10 or 11. I could ask, but I'm not gonna ask my mum. But anyway, I think I was about 10 or 11 at the time. And we get on the ride, and the next thing I remember is just the guy going something along the lines of, "Oh, you must get out of here. Go, go, go." And then the fucking ride kicks off and it gets shot around the fucking thing. And it's about a minute long of just the worst gut pain I think I've ever experienced outside of food poisoning. I was like, felt like I was being crushed because of the G-force of it. Because it's a lot of curves and tight corners and things. And like a big, really big fucking hill, like, you know, like drop. It's just, boom, and you go down and it's fucking, it was bad. And when I got off, I kind of started crying. So we walked away from the line so I wasn't crying in front of a bunch of adults and shit. And mum and I like stood there like sort of A-posing. I'm probably gonna put a similar pose in the thumbnail because I think it'd be really fucking funny. But I was like, so I stood there like A-posing, and then I like looked at my mum, and then I just vomited down myself. Like stood up completely straight. And then I started crying really bad, and you know that's like that kid thing of you just break down crying because you don't know how to process it because it's overstimulation. So I break down crying, and my best friend's there, and my mum and my stepdad are there, and you know my mum and my stepdad are kind of dicks, but they're not assholes in public because they're both narcissists, so they can't look bad in front of people that they don't know, or really they can't look bad in front of anyone that isn't in their direct household. So you know they actually act like they give a shit. And so they like kind of hurry me off to a bench so I can sit down and get a drink of water and not feel like crap. Well, juice. I know that. I know it was juice because I didn't drink water at the time because I hated water. It tasted awful. It still tastes awful, but I still drink it because, you know, it's important for nutrition and health. Even though I hate it, it tastes awful. You people who think water tastes good, the only time it tastes good is at 3 a.m. when you're in a heat wave. It's the only time it tastes good. Never tastes good outside of that. Anyway, that water issue aside, so I get off the ride, and then for the rest of the day, I basically sat around in various places in the park crying, whilst my mum, my best friend, and my stepdad went off and actually enjoyed the rides. And the one I distinctly remember was 13, which is like a, well, I've never been on it, so I'm not actually sure what goes on in 13. But, like, you know, I remember all the I Survived 13 t-shirts and things like that in the store, because whilst my mum and my best friend and my stepdad were doing that, I was sat in the gift shop being stared at by the attendant at the counter, whilst I was just kind of crying. And then, like, my mum came out of the ride, and they had all clearly had a good time, and, you know, we kind of kept going around the park, and I spent basically the rest of the day just crying. It was tragic. But you know, in that fucking hilarious kind of way where it's like, it's just a kid literally walking around like quite a joyous place, you know, a theme park full of like attractions and stuff, and I'm just teary-eyed the whole time, like, because this is kind of a bit dark, but like, I knew deep down in my mind, I knew that when I got home, I was gonna get shouted at and complained at and told that I was an embarrassing person to be around by my mum, because, you know, it was always, oh, you know, you embarrassed me in public today, Sam, by doing this. Instead of, you know, it's okay, you don't have to go on the roller coasters, which was, every time we went near a roller coaster, my mum would go, oh, let's go on the roller coaster, you know, I think in her own way, trying to get me to engage, but I was done the second we went on Rio Queen of Speed, because she decided that was the best idea to throw me on the first roller coaster of the day, and I think I understand where the logic for that was, if there was any logic, because it could have just been some sick, twisted torture thing for her, because she was like that. But I think the logic was, you know, you go on the fastest, scariest one first, everything else will be fine. But that's not how it works for me. I went on the fastest, scariest one first, and then I never wanted to go on a roller coaster ever again, and up until I was about 16, I didn't go on a roller coaster ever again. And last time I ever went on a roller coaster was when I was 16, and me and my dad went to Legoland with my little sister, who was like 5 at the time, and I went on the Big Dragon roller coaster at Legoland. And that was the last time I've ever been on a roller coaster, and even that felt horrible. But theme parks in general are horrible for me, because I have immense amounts of social anxiety, and always have, but it's never been as bad as it is now. But back then, it was kind of like, you know, just normal amounts of social anxiety, you know, just discomfort about being in public. And I still remember, like, even as recently as, like, about 8 years ago, I went to a theme park with my best friend again, and me and my mum, because by that point my stepdad was long gone, because he was a prick. We went to a theme park, and I still couldn't do rides, like, even, like, so I'll put a picture in the video when we get to this point, probably the only editing I'm gonna do. But there's like this pirate ship ride, and it's like a big A-frame with a pirate ship in the middle, and it swings from side to side. Like front to back, it like swings. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. But basically that, and we went on that, and I couldn't do it. Like, the second we went on, I was, like, the second it started going, something in my stomach just went, and it just, ooh. I did not feel good, and when it finished, my mum had to basically pry my hands off of the fucking grip bar, because I gripped it so tight, and like my fingers had all locked up. And she's like, Sam, why aren't you just fucking moving? Fucking move, you fuck. And just, you know, pushed me off. So yeah, I don't go to theme parks because of that. Although, theme parks were never really my thing anyway. But I always liked the little games and things, you know, like the shooting ducks, or sorry, the hooking ducks, and the shooting targets and stuff. I was good at that. But everything else at theme parks really just never piqued my interest, because I was a very lonely shut-in with few friends. Yeah. This story is kind of one of them ones where it's like, it's sad, but it's funny, because, like, I mean, I should have been able to handle roller coasters at the time, right? I was 11 years, I was like 11 years old at the most. I think I was 11. because I'm fairly certain it didn't happen the same year as the go-karting stuff. It happened after that. But, you know, it's funny because I probably should have been less of a bitch about it, you know? But my whole family life at that time was just, oh. So I couldn't really enjoy outside experiences because I knew if I reacted badly even once, I was gonna get a lecture or, like, worse, significantly worse, when I got home. So theme parks were never a good time for me because I basically just avoided doing anything to avoid any kinds of lectures, and then I'd get a lecture for not doing anything, or worse, for not doing anything. Very sad. Funny though. Funny, not funny the abuse. I mean the funny because it's like, you know, one often meets his path on the one often meets his destiny on the path he chooses to avoid it. to quote Master Oogway, not the weird YouTuber, the actual fucking character. Oh god, that's gonna date this video. But fucking yeah, no, the theme parks. The thing is, I liked the atmosphere of theme parks. And I always look at theme parks and like videos of like defunct theme parks on YouTube and stuff. I find them really interesting because it's like all sorts of weird shit happened. But I know if I actually went, I wouldn't fucking enjoy it in the slightest. Because if anything, my anxiety issues have only gotten progressively worse as my life has gone on, not better, due to varying factors. But this was a lighter hearted story than last time, and I'm going to try and aim more for these ones, where it's less genuinely prison-worthy abuse being committed against me. Because I'm sure that will drive away my potential audience. Also, this is my longest video, which is fun. Probably because I rambled on and on about shit that made no sense. I do apologize. I've kind of lost my lad tone, I think.